Hello and welcome to the Vinny Brusco Show podcast, episode number 420. This week's episode, I am joined by one of the most world-renowned doctors in the gut biome and gut health, Dr. Mahmoud Ghannoum. Dr. Ghannoum has been on the forefront of studying microbiome of the stomach. He has been published in over 400 scientific papers and has been cited in over 20,000 papers by his peers. He also wrote the book, The Total Gut Balance, which is an essential guide to helping you hydrate your body and balance your gut biome. Dr. Ghannoum and I got into a whole bunch of different topics, from the importance of a balanced gut biome to the connection between the brain and the gut, the importance of meditation and yoga to alleviate stress, to contribute to a healthy gut, how important a dog can be, and the importance of your connection and your relationship with your food. Episode number 420 with Dr. Mahmoud Ghannoum. Enjoy.
This is Dr. Ghannoum, and this is the Vinny Brusco Show.
And here we go.
Morning, Dr. Ghannoum.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Great. Nice
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Excellent.
Let me close the door.
Yes, please.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Not bad at all. No, actually.
I've been very looking forward to getting together with you and speaking with you. So I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's really great. My pleasure.
So there's so many things I want to dive into with the idea of gut health and the gut biome, but how did you originally get into this field?
So really, I started looking into the microbiome about 2010 because I was funded from the National Institute of Health to study the oral complications of HIV. You know, people with AIDS used to develop oral complication, which is fungus in their mouth. You know, it's called candida or thrush. And at that time, I thought we should start looking at the microbiome because people used to look only at one type of organism, with the idea that now we have the microbiome in our body, both in the mouth and the gut. I started looking into, I said, okay, you know, we really should look at the microbiome because most probably because of the imbalance, we start to have candida or thrush in the mouth. That's when I started. But really, when I got into the gut microbiome was about 2014, where I start thinking about the gut, as you know, center for all what ails you, okay? And because of this, I said, you know, people look at bacteria. I really would like to look at fungus because I know from my long time doing research that bacteria and fungus interact together. Sometimes they help each other, sometimes they attack each other. And that's where I did the first study looking at what is the microbiome look like, how the microbiome look like in patients with Crohn's disease, okay? And I did the study. We looked at Crohn's disease patients with their relatives who are healthy. And lo and behold, we found that their microbiome is different in both bacteria and fungus, where the bacteria, E. coli, as well as Serratia marcescens, increased in their level, or what we call abundance. At the same time, Candida tropicalis also increased. And that's really what brought me into the field of the gut microbiome, looking at how bacteria and fungus work together to affect our health in different ways.
So I just want to go back to the original plan that was in place when you were studying with HIV patients. What was going on in your mind that you said, let's reverse this process and see what's going on in the gut first? What were the telling signs that there might be something connected to the gut?
Because if you think about it, our digestive system starts in the mouth, okay? And then studies started to show that there is concordance or agreement with what organisms present in the mouth. Sometimes they are the same organism that are present in our gut. So it's really a continuum. And because of this, I said, you know what? We should look at the gut because, by the way, it has the largest number of microbes there. It is more than in our mouth, and than definitely, and even the skin. The skin we have, as you know, microbiome, but it's not the same. The gut is really the center of gravity, and that's what pushed me to go into that area.
And now with the clients who had Crohn's disease and them having siblings who don't have Crohn's disease, what was the like the differential between the gut health? Were they eating different foods? Were they stressed in different ways? What were some of the external circumstances going on that led to maybe one having Crohn's and the other not having Crohn's?
This is really such an important question because if you think about it, diet and lifestyle definitely affect your microbiome profile or what lives in your body. And that's why when we did the study, we looked at families, people who are living in the same place. So, in a way, we tried to minimize the effect of diet because they are living in the same household.
Right. So you would assume that they're eating the same types of breakfast, the same types of foods for most part.
Exactly, exactly. And then we had another control group, which is not within the family, but they live in the same region.
Mm,
So again, we try to control for the diet from that point of view. And of course, because they are relatives, in a way, sometimes the genetics also are common.
sure.
So that's why we believe that really helped us to sort of isolate what's the effect of Crohn's versus effect of diet and lifestyle and this sort of thing. Minimized it. I would not say you can completely get rid of it, but definitely we try to cut it down so that the influence of the diet is minimal.
And was there a telling sign between the difference of those that did have Crohn's and those that did not?
Oh, definitely, because as you know, people who have Crohn's, they start to have inflammatory symptoms. They have gut issues, they have constipation, they have pain. All of this is associated with Crohn's. So these are the telltale. And also, these people really were identified by their physicians to have Crohn's.
Mm. And
In
now,
that,
on a cultural standpoint, are there particular cultures that you've seen that have a healthier gut biome than some others? And if so, what is their diet consisting of? What is their lifestyle like?
Yes, there are actually studies where it compared kids in rural areas in Africa where their food is natural grains and what really not too much meat and steaks and hamburgers compared to kids living in Europe. And they found that really showed that those living in rural areas eating a healthier food, they tend to have better microbiome where the beneficial organisms are more, their diversity is better as well. So,
Mm.
where you live, what type of food you eat is critical in really deciding what your microbiome. Also, lifestyle. I remember when we were little kids, you go out to play all the time. Now we have the kids sitting at home playing with their, video games and other type of things. Unfortunately, we don't have the same really uh, avenues for you. Like I remember, my mom used to say, "Okay, go and play outside. You don't worry.
Sure,
You don't
sure.
worry about kids." Now you can't do that. You have to watch them. You have to be all the time taking them and looking after them. So the way our life changed definitely affects our microbiome.
And now these cultures, as they shift and they get more to, I guess, a Western type of diet, right? Is it the imbalance and the disproportion of what they're consuming, or is it the body's natural reaction to kind of differentiate the types of foods?
I think really, again, when you move into another area, you living, let's say you're living in Europe, and then you go to another area, the other way around. Let's say in Asia. Okay, again, your food changes, the environment around you changes, the activities you do are different, and that definitely has been shown to reflect on the gut and the way we feel as well as in the microbiome. And the other way around is true. If people come, you have a lot of, there are very interesting studies where people who used to live in Korea and they came here to the US and they looked at their microbiome and they found those that have been here long enough, there, because they changed their diet, it definitely affected their microbiome profile.
Mm. And staying on the topic of food, it seems like as a culture we've kind of shifted, and there's been an awareness brought to the common person with the idea of kombucha and kimchi and probiotics. Was there a moment where that kind of shifted with your experience being in the field for 15 years plus? Has there been a moment where that kind of shifted as a culture, or is that just like a slow, gradual, implementation of these different foods and awareness?
I really think this is really, again, important question because, sometimes these things people don't realize. We just continue to do what we are doing. But what happened in the last 10, 15 years, we hear so much about the microbiome, about how what we eat affects it, and how also by balancing it, you will have better health. People are becoming more and more aware on what is the effect of food, and that's why you see a lot of people now moving into vegan, for example, or vegetarians. And sometimes instead of having, like burgers, instead of non meat burgers,
Sure.
vegetable burgers now people are taking more and more. So I think with so much attention to the fact that we are starting to understand that in our gut we have good bacteria and bad bacteria, and we can balance it by what we eat. Now you see more interest in healthy food, in the probiotics, in even testing for uh, your microbiome to know whether you are in balance or out of balance. I was amazed when I published the paper on Crohn's disease. You don't believe how many people got in touch with me. It's reminded me when we were studying the HIV infected patients. HIV infected patients, why it is strong? Because they have very good community. The community all the time go and advocate for them. I did not know the same thing happens with the gut. But lo and behold, when we started to work on this, so many people reached out. And to my surprise and delight, actually, I saw that again, there is a community here for people trying to help each other and trying to follow the good way. And in a way, I know the pandemic was, we living in the COVID pandemic. In a way, it's helping us because people now are at home, they are starting to cook more, they are trying to see, okay, how I can help myself, how I can improve my health. And really that's happening now. So its awareness is much, much more better.
There was an article I stumbled upon. It was yesterday or the day before where it said medicine is still medicine and a healthy diet. Stop expecting so much out of your healthy diet. Where can people kind of make the adjustments? Because again, there's this level of thought where, it's so important to have, obviously doctors and medicine, but we also as a culture default to those things rather than it changing our diet or, going and getting our gut biome measured and checked. Most people don't even know where to do that. So where can people kind of draw that line in the sand where it's like, okay, it is about medicine, but a healthy diet is so important to both cognitive, factors and your gut biome, your physicality. Where can people make those differentiations?
Look, this is a very important issue we live in. People nowadays, they want to, if they have anything, they want to take a pill. Okay. And we think a pill or a medicine is gonna sort our life out and our health. Now, the truth of the matter is you don't need to take a pill for everything. Having said that, I just want to be careful. If you are not feeling well and there is some health issues, you have to go to see your physician or a primary care physician. Okay? But you don't have to buy all these over the counter. For example, efflux pump inhibitors. Okay? All these non-steroidal painkillers or anti-inflammatory compounds. Okay? What we need to have a way of moderation. If we are not feeling well, I have an infection, I have to go and take an antibiotic because I need to kill this bad thing which could really kill you. But at the same time, I know I need to start looking at my diet because by eating the right stuff, I may be able to balance the gut by having more beneficial organisms. And these beneficial organisms are gonna improve our immune system where we can fight other infections. So that's where it's really, moderation is a great thing. We cannot solve every health issue by taking medicine. But if we have, take medicine when you need it, if you have a disease, but let's try to help ourselves by eating the right way because now science showed is very clear evidence that if you have a balanced microbiome where the beneficial organisms are more bacteria and fungus, okay, like bifidobacterium, lactobacillus, and fungus Saccharomyces boulardii or Saccharomyces cerevisiae, then you are not only going to improve your gut health, it will also improve, as you say, improve our cognitive issues because of the gut-brain axis. You know?
I'm going to dive into that in just a minute, but I want to go back real quick because you mentioned the idea of people shifting gears from, this one diet to whether it be vegan or vegetarian. I'll do every once in a while. I'll just go on a week, and like 2 weeks ago I did just carnivore, and the week before that I did raw fruits and vegetables. And depending on my output, depending on what I'm doing physically, it kind of lends itself better to one diet. So at the time I was doing raw fruits and vegetables, I was doing a little bit more of a yoga kind of meditation, a little bit more of a calmer approach to my workout. Where when I was doing the carnivore diet, unfortunately, I didn't have the availability to do the heavy lifting that I should have been. So the idea of what happened to me cognitively, I became way more way foggier when I wasn't able to outsource and output the heavy meats, right? And I felt way cleaner and my mind felt just fresh when I was eating the raw fruits and vegetables and doing yoga. Now, I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian, but I'm also not straight carnivore. I try to find a balanced diet, but I think it's so important to recognize, the elimination diets that people default to sometimes can also kind of hinder their performance.
Sure. I really agree with you. It's look, what you said, you don't have, again, the same theme, which is moderation. You don't have to eat just steak. I used to have a friend of mine from Texas. We were in England and he said, Mahmoud, I have to go to eat steak. I say, I'm not going to mention his name. I say, look, honestly, first of all, we are in England. The steak is not as good as Second, there are some nice food here. They have great fish, for example, being an island. So let's have some of their fish. Let's have some of their nice turnips, for example, And so again, to me, I think what we need to do is we need a nutritionally balanced diet. Whole food will be great. You need really low glycemic sugar. Cut the sugar down because the sugar, especially refined sugar, okay? Why? Because fungus, for example, love sugar. Candida loves sugar. So the more sugar you have, the more you are going to have issues with Candida. You need to have also unsaturated poly and monounsaturated fat, okay? You need to have good proteins, what you mentioned. Let's have some good protein from plants. Let's have some proteins from what you call fish. All of this really works very well. And vegetables is great. I love nuts such as pistachio, for example. It's great to have pistachio, because studies have shown that having pistachio, okay, have better, those people who have pistachio have better microbiome profile. Look what I have. This is here. I, I, 10 o'clock, like sort of in the morning, I get a little bit hungry, so I have a little bit of pistachio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the key of it. You need a diet which is flexible, which is diverse, as well as customizable. Because if you start taking these diets where you stop eating all this type of food or that, you cannot sustain it anyway. So we need something which we can really uh, change. It's flexible in what we eat, as well as something you enjoy. Otherwise, it's not fun.
Yeah, I think those are two key components of the flexibility aspect and enjoying, because if you're not flexible and you're so rigid in what you're eating, you're going to come across a moment in time where it's going to be challenged or questioned, or you might be out to dinner and be in a predicament where you're like, oh well, I gotta do, and now you're kind of coming off of your rigid aspect of eating, and that doesn't serve you, right? It's finding that balance between the two. And I want to ask you real quick in regards to genetics, being that in the States it's a mixed bag, right? It's the melting pot of the world. Do you think it would be beneficial for people to do something like a genetics tracing and see where their lineage comes back to, and then leaning into the foods that their ancestors ate? Do you think that'd be something that'd be beneficial to the gut biome?
I think that first of all, I mean, as you say, if we go back to what our ancestors ate, the grains, the plants, and this sort of thing, this is definitely gonna help you. Now, it's good idea to try to do this genetic background to know where are you from, what originally, and this sort of thing. First of all, it's fun for the family,
Sure.
to know where you are from. I am from Lebanon, and you find that when I do search, you have some European genes to it, some Middle Eastern genes, because it
Yeah.
was the cross road for every country that wanted to invade, whether it's Romans, Greeks, and whatever, they passed through Lebanon. So you have all this mixture, you know. So that's actually uh, could help. It's good to have simpler food nowadays. Like what you asked me really takes me back to the fact that now we don't want to cook. Okay, we need everything to be prepared, everything with so much preservatives and this sort of thing. When I was a young boy, if I want to go back, my mom used to go during the day to the grocery, one buy some lentils, buy some fruits from the produce guy, and then she goes and buy some meat or fish, from the people, and they used to pass by because we lived in a small place, and their bike coming from after they fished in the Mediterranean Sea, they selling you fish. It's always fresh, it's always nice, and you cook it, you know what you add into it. Nowadays, we really are opting to have everything prepared for us. This is not very, very helpful. So going back to what the way we used to be definitely will be an advantage.
Yeah, we've culturally definitely have stepped away with our relationship with food and knowing where it's sourced from, knowing where it came from. I try to do my best to do organic, but the tricky thing about the organic thing is it's shifted from, everything used to be diet this and diet that, right? And then when you look at it and come to fruition that, diet doesn't mean necessarily healthy. And organic is kind of becoming that way too, where we're just throwing the label organic on it. But if you actually look at what's in it, like even like the Impossible Burger, where it's
Yes.
not meat, but you look at what's actually in that burger, it's all oils and fats, and there's no actual substance to that. So, organic is also now starting to get into replacement of the word diet.
Yes, I really agree with you. Oh, that's one point. The other thing is it is so expensive. Everything they label it organic, and it's very difficult for people to follow a diet. You go there, if you want to buy everything organic for somebody with a family with 2 3 kids, it's very very expensive. It's not possible. And you are right, they just stick that label. I mean, to me, let's start maybe by, if you live in an area, go to the market where you have local vegetables. We all, like in Ohio, it's great. You can go very close to rural areas and you can buy these vegetables, and all will be fresh. Try to have something fresh. Try to you cook in them, because you know how much salt you add, you know how much sugar you add, and as you know, all of these are will affect our microbiome and our health in general. So to me, if we go, the simpler we go, the better. you know and you put care, and you know exactly what is in your food, and you will enjoy it much more than getting everything prepared for you, and you just heat it up and this sort of thing.
One of the best, I think, I forgot where I heard it, but it was just like, I guess it's a mindset thing where, when you go to a supermarket, just stay on the outer aisles and don't go into, don't go into the actual aisles, to stay on the outside, and everything you basically need is on the outside. But once you start going in and out of the actual aisles, that's when all the crap is there.
That's true. That's
How has gut health shown in studies in regards to longevity?
Oh, this is very, very interesting question, because in Italy, they did a study in a town where a lot of people, they live to a ripe old age,
Right.
and when they looked at their food, again, they went into the natural Italian type of food, good food, good vegetables. I'm not sure if you went to been to Italy, but it's a beautiful place. You have a lot of vegetable gardens, a lot of places available to you. Also, even the animals are in their fields there. And of course, in Italy, you are very close to the sea. So that, and they have a little bit of wine with their food. And that's one thing which is really, I always like to stress, it's fine to take wine, but it has to be limited, because if you drink,
Sure.
not good. So a little bit, I think they found sometime red wine, a little bit of it. Again, I stress is very important, and that helped them for longevity. So definitely having the right diet, the right, as we defined it, and balanced diet, it really helps to extend your life. Sometimes, genetics play a role. If there's some issues with genetics, you cannot do much about it. But in general, I can tell you it's all in our hand. I tell people it's like a garden, okay? A garden, if you want roses, you have to feed the roses and try to kill the weeds. And that's really very, very critical. And we can do it.
One thing I've been thinking a lot about is, and it's usually like before I eat, I kind of just reflect on my food a little bit, and the care and the energy that goes into the preparation of food, right? And the idea that some of these foods, factory farming, obviously the way these animals are being handled or treated may not be to certain people's moral standards, right? Where some of the other animals that are kind of treated in, whether it be grass fed, or they're treated in a little bit more of a humane way, for lack of a better term, and the energy that goes into that, right? And now we're consuming that energy, and it's playing a role in our bodies. And you made reference to a little bit before that gut brain connection, right? How much of the external kind of affects that gut brain connection? Because obviously the gut biome is being manipulated by the consumption of these foods, but I imagine there's probably something that's making a gut brain connection that's almost not measurable.
Yes, yes. Because remember, if you want to put it a simple way, our gut communicate with our brain, and we know if you have a balanced microbiome, you feel in a better mood. So you can imagine when you are cooking your food, you are enjoying it. It helps you. It's as an external force. I am preparing the food. We all want to do it, but it is an enjoyable way of doing it. And it puts you in a better mood. And then when you sit down and you're eating with your loved ones, you feel this is really nice. And you thank your spouse, your partner, for preparing the food, and all of it. It's an experience. The whole experience is really critical here. You have nice food, you spend time to prepare it, you enjoyed it. And sometimes when you are, I remember when we cooking at home, my wife, she does a great job. You smell, and it gives you good memories. So I agree with you. And really, this brings the idea of how our gut and brain, or the microbiome in our gut, communicate with our brain, and vice versa. If we have imbalance, then we have issues with respect to our mood, with our stress. And now, especially now with the COVID situation, we have a lot of people who are depressed. I just wrote an article about microbiome driven approach to manage stress in COVID, or depression in COVID. Because, we all are stressed out. The life is different. We are locked down. And, so trying to address this issue by taking care of your gut microbiome is going to help you. In addition, of course, to food, which we've been talking, you really need to have some exercise. Try to do some yoga. I heard you saying you do yoga. I love yoga. You will laugh at this because I'm Lebanese. I mean, I never done yoga before. And then suddenly I come here, I started to go to yoga. It's great. Even the 1.5 hour you do on Sunday when I go, it takes your mind from your daily chores, and you are just focusing on, okay, how am I going to do this stretch? How am I going to do that? And by the end of it, you feel really well. So try to have yoga, do some meditation if you can, and exercise. Exercise, you don't have, again, remember, I am a great believer in moderation. You don't have to kill yourself. Just half an hour, or even go for a walk, whether alone, with your dog if you have one. It's all such a pleasure, and it will help your gut brain connection, and you feel much better.
In Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink, which is about kind of that instant reaction, the instant that gut feeling that comes up, he talks about that a lot, about the gut actually being the first brain. We default to the second brain, but the gut brings this awareness and this knowledge that's almost, quantum-esque, if you will, that, it taps into something that the brain only receives later. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit further on the gut brain connection, of any research or studies that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, we are doing a study about the gut brain connection, like, for example, autism, okay, with the kids. And also, like, Alzheimer, for example. There are studies to show this blood gut brain connection. Definitely the microbiome play a role. And what we found is that we doing a study, I hope to publish soon, where we looked at people with autism, and again their sibling with no autism, and we were able to show that there is difference in their microbiome. Okay. And this difference, I think, could affect their way of eating. Like, for because these kids have issues with respect what they eat, what they like, because it affects them. They have gut issues. So to me, definitely selecting the right uh, diet could help these kids, because then you are gonna produce, as we mentioned, or encourage the growth of beneficial organisms, which can secrete what you call short chain fatty acids, or other metabolites. These metabolites will go into our bloodstream, and then they improve our immunity, as I mentioned, but also with serotonin, and you have this connection with the brain, and that helps it, and you feel much better. And hopefully, we are just still doing this research. We hope to identify something that's going to help these kids to balance their gut, and with that, hopefully, to improve their gut health, and hopefully their behavior as well.
Yeah, because if you think about it, just on the everyday aspect of food and your behavior, or even like a hangover, so to speak, right? Like you'll get a food hangover, right? Last night we celebrated Passover. It was Passover, Easter, and Palm Sunday in my house. We celebrate everything, but we ate some good food, and but the dump that came along with eating all that good food was real, right? That's a real, your body's changing chemically to adjust to this type of food that you're eating, and traditionally I don't eat that heavy, but so your body's going through this change, and all of a sudden you're like, you get lethargic and you're tired, and then that carries into the next day, and then what do you, in the average person is probably just going to wake up, have a bagel for breakfast or some eggs and some toast, where I woke up to, it's like, all right, well, I'm fasting all day because I need to kind of clean out my system and get back to neutral. But there is, on just an everyday operation, that's happening. So when you take children with autism, or children with functional cognitive diseases, or hindrances, it would make sense that there's something else going on behind the scenes that's playing a role. And we quickly, again, goes back to the previous point, we quickly want to give them a pill or label them as such without actually addressing the root of the problem. We just want to trim the leaves of the tree.
I really agree with you. I really agree with you. I mean, we all have experienced this, what you just described. Especially Thanksgiving, for example.
Right,
I
right,
mean,
right.
to me, sometimes I say, and you feel it. It's amazing because you try to watch, and then suddenly everything becomes, and you say, "Oh my God, what did I do?"
Yes, that's how I felt.
Yeah. So, to me, again, look, we all sometimes fall in following certain aspect, which we say we know it's not good, but you just have to have this ice cream. It's okay. Sometimes you do it fine, as long as it is not the day in day out way of living. And really, really, I think that's the key. Is, look, if we are 80% of the time we are trying to watch some what we eat, and we eat the right way, it's fine. Especially if you exercise, if you have take walks and this sort of thing, it will help you, and it will get over things. Because again, remember, we want something we can sustain. We cannot just have nothing to do with bad stuff. We all sometimes like to, like I give you an example, baklava. Baklava, which
Sure.
is the Lebanese Greek food. Sweet.
Delicious.
Oh my goodness, delicious. When I go to Beirut, in the airport I buy a kilo and bring, and then now I don't buy it because I know I'm gonna eat it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, moderation.
I want to go back to something you said, and you mentioned meditation and exercise and stress. How much has stress played a role in the gut? And obviously, you mentioned COVID and everyone being locked down. Everyone's at a heightened level of stress collectively, right? The world collectively has a almost fairly tangible experience of stress right now. How much does that play a role in the health of the gut?
Oh, definitely it plays a big role, because again, because of the gut brain axis. So now, instead of our gut being affected, our brain here, we are all down. We are all, stressed. What can we do? How can we? And then, of course, as I said, it's two-way communication. It's not just our gut tells our brain, it's also our brain tell our gut. So when we are stressed, guess what? We will have dysbiosis or imbalance in our gut. So, and that's why it's very important to start to do things that can reduce the stress. Okay. One, we said meditation is really very important. And we all are all the day. Yesterday, I was telling my wife, I could work 24 hours and I will not finish what I'm doing. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. So you have to have a break. If you don't have a break and then you have some meditation, it's really exhausting, you know. So to me, it is very critical that we reduce the stress level we have now. And we can do it through meditation, through yoga. talk to your relatives, your close friends. You have to say things because, as we say in English, a problem shared, a problem halved. You know,
Mhm.
so talk to people, try to express, don't keep it to yourself. Because remember, we all have issues. And the lucky one of us, they have people they can go and share these and they can help them. So, meditation, connect with people, exercise, go for walks. And now, especially the spring is coming, is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh, Go out, relax a little bit. Because if we don't, it is not very, very helpful. And also at the end, it's not just going to affect our mind, it's going to affect our gut. So the total thing will be out of balance.
Yeah, the whole machine will be kind of off the track, right? It'll be the
Yes.
software and the hardware, right? One it's the meditation aspect of it is there are days if I meditate and days that I don't meditate, and there's a tangible difference between the two types of the day, right? I'm either reactive or I respond. I'm in a state of like receiving and being okay, all right, well, this is what's in front of me, and or I'm in a heightened sense, which is part of the human experience, which is part of our genetics, right? If we reverse engineer our experience as humans, it would make sense for us to be heightened and to be aware. But now that we're no longer threatened by tigers, we need to be able to balance that and put it into check a little bit.
Yes, I really agree with you. And I love what you said. When you do these things, you feel much better. And it's the same I feel when I exercise. I wake up in the morning, usually. I used to go to a club and this sort of thing. Now I have an elliptical machine in my basement. And, sometimes I have to talk myself. You wake up and say, oh, I'm tired. Okay,
That
no, no,
was me
I have to go.
today. I
You know,
lost. I lost today to the alarm. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna lie to you, doctor. I lied. I lost today. It
I don't blame you. But even sometimes,
was
but
the
then I
food. It
go.
was the
When I
food I
go
ate
down,
yesterday.
but when I go down and I do half an hour, and then honestly, it gets me ready for the day. So it's similar sort of situation. If in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, after because you've been working nearly all day, 3 o'clock, just take 15 minutes and relax. Just do nothing, and that definitely is gonna help you. You know.
Yeah.
Now, recently, you know what I'm doing a lot? When I go home, I have a dog, border collie. Oh, I love that dog. They love you, these animals, don't they? I mean,
They
having an
they love you. I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, and one of the parts that they talk about are dogs, and they say they're the only animal that don't have to work for human acceptance and love. Like they're just intrinsically happy little animals, and they're just they
I
walk up to
know.
you and they're so I don't have a my daughter, she's 6, she wants a dog so badly, and I'm like, we're not having it. You have a little brother, that's enough for now.
Yes, yes.
But there is an energy that dogs bring that just there's a levity to it.
Oh my goodness. I tell you, now I go home, and the moment he hears the car, they start banging at the door. They want to come out. And then I say, okay, okay, let me put my bag. I put my bag and immediately take him for a walk.
Uh, uh,
At the end of it, oh my God, I really feel good.
They have a sixth sense, like that. They have that. They've done studies where people, they'll leave work at a different time than they usually do, and the dog will make the adjustment on their end of when they go to the window, which
Oh
is
my
like the awareness of that is not even like something you can measure.
Yes, I really, and I laugh at this because again, being from the Middle East, people don't have as many dogs as pets, and then I say to my wife, you know, people don't understand how much they are missing. These
Yeah.
guys, they love you so much, and they give you a lot of pleasure. So that's one thing. In addition, I start my day by exercising. I end it by taking. I call him Prince. His name is Prince. I take Prince for a walk. He is happy, and I am happy.
Do you find that the waking up early in the morning, because I know there's the 5 a.m. club, there's the idea of, I'm gonna probably butcher this, but Brahma Humuta, which is considered the creator's hour, where there is this energetic field that is actually transpiring. It's an hour and 36 minutes before the sun comes up. Do you find that waking up in the morning, what is it about that? Because I have been pretty diligent with waking up at 4:30 in the last 2 years or so. And there is this almost energetic difference to that time. What is it about that?
I really think it's like for us, each individuals is different. Like for me, I really love to wake up early. Other people, they can't, you know. So it's intrinsic in your makeup is the way either you are an early riser or you are a late riser. But then in the evening, I am a dead person. Like in the evening, I make my wife laugh because always, whatever we watch a film and television, it's new because I go to sleep. so, so I think in the morning it's our makeup and our all disposition and hormones uh, are good for early rising. Other people don't have that. They have it for late because you can see people who are not early riser, they really don't feel well when they wake up, and then by the end of the day they even tired. But if they stay wake up a little bit late and then they can stay late, it's amazing how our circadian rhythm, there is a clock within us that control this. And uh, like to me, I feel no problem. Like honestly, this morning I woke up 5 o'clock, and I'm going and enjoying it. And of course, uh, we are fixing our basement because I wanted to have to do more exercise and this sort of thing. And and they are fixing it this morning, so I took my dog for a long walk, so that was instead of the evening. But of course I have to take him later today because he said, what's going on here if I don't? So
Have you done any research with the gut and people's circadian rhythm and how it affects their sleep and and actually that that internal clock?
oh, definitely. If you have, I did not do that research, but other people did. Definitely, if you get disturbed, like for example, you travel to, I used to travel a lot to Japan or China or Australia. This like 12-hour, 12, 14-hour difference, basically their day and our night, and this sort of thing definitely will affect your microbiome balance.
So what does the microbiome have to do to adjust for that? What is it? What is it? How is it going out of proportion?
I mean, basically, you you start to have an increase or in diversity if you are living in your area, because the more diversity you have, the better. If you go, then some of these bacteria, they don't survive as well. The beneficial organism are also become less till you adjust your body, adjust to the circadian rhythm of that area. Like after a week or so, then things start to balance. Because remember also that when you go first to these places, your eating habits are different. So you are used to eat morning, let's say lunch and dinner. Now you are eating in the evening, midnight, and then the more. So
Hmm.
that affects the composition and the makeup of our gut. Uh,
With things like probiotics and, like I mentioned earlier, kombucha and kimchi and like some fermented foods, what are the implementations and what are the results of those things? Because as I mentioned earlier, like culturally, right, there's an awareness that's coming on. Like like my kids take probiotics, right? I have yogurts and kombucha. So what is actually transpiring in the gut biome that's allowing these everyday things that are now brought to our attention to kind of balance and become healthier?
I think once you start using these probiotic, for example, what you are doing, you are giving your body the beneficial organism. Basically, you are supporting your good bugs. Okay. At the same time, when you're eating fiber, also you are feeding them more. Like to me, if I want to have good gut balance with respect to the microbiome, I would use diet as the primary way to do it. Okay. But sometimes, if you take an antibiotics and you are killing not only the bad pathogens, you are killing also the beneficial one. Then taking a probiotic, what it does, they can support the beneficial organism. Also, they can inhibit the pathogens or those that cause infections. So having a probiotic or kombucha, as you say, yogurt, especially unsweetened yogurt, which is with, fermented, this is very good because again, we are adding more armamentarium to our gut where we have beneficial organism more. And when you have more beneficial organism, you are gonna, two things will happen: reduce the level of the pathogen, and also these beneficial organisms will produce these chemicals which we talked about, short chain fatty acids, that is going to help our immunity. So all in all, it's going to help you feel much better. We actually did a study where we showed that 4 weeks on probiotics, we were able to show that the microbiome shifted towards the better. We have more beneficial organisms and less of the harmful one.
Wow. So the turnaround, so the body makes the adjustment pretty quickly once these healthier bacteria are entering it.
Yes, yes.
I remember it was a few years ago. I had the flu, and they gave me Tamiflu, and I took like 1 day of it, and my stomach was, and I was like, oh, I'll take a probe. I was like, you know what? I'm not fighting my stomach and the flu. I'll just fight the flu. Forget the Tamiflu. But it's amazing how, like you said, like your gut biome gets completely disrupted by these new, whether it be medicines or whatever it is. How do vitamins take effect in that?
Vitamins are very important. This is a good point you raised. Like we did studies where we found that if you have an imbalance, like for example, you have an increase in this phylum called Protobacteria. Protobacteria is a pro-inflammatory bacteria, okay? And this pro-inflammatory, what does it mean? It will increase the number of inflammation. And what we found, if you take vitamin D3, it will reduce the level of those protobacteria. Again, Candida, there are studies that showed people who are deficient in vitamins A, B, and C, they tend to have gastrointestinal issues. So having the right balance of vitamin is really good. It's very important. It's not just a probiotic, but also the vitamins as well.
And how are the vitamins coming into play with the actual bacteria? Are they, because you would think that like it would be somewhat counterproductive for the gut bacteria to grow in a certain way if there's a vitamin introduced. How is that affecting it?
First of all, remember the beneficial bacteria produce their own vitamins as well. So this is sort of become as a natural process for them. If you don't take too much, take what is your required. But if you have too much, you'll overwhelm the system, even if they are good things. Okay, but vitamins by themselves don't really cause much issues with respect to those organisms, because those organisms produce vitamins as well. It's not like it's inhibitory to them. Okay, and then the more you have, if you have extra, basically you are not gonna reap the benefit of them if you take too much vitamins.
What vitamins are the good bacteria's creating?
Like for example, vitamin K, B12 are produced by bacteria.
So if you're taking on top of your gut creating those vitamins, if you're taking additional, it would actually help it to some degree.
Sorry.
No worries. So it would actually contribute to the creation of those healthier vitamins.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing. I didn't know that the good bacteria create vitamins. That's ridiculous.
No, they do. This is one of the things which I mentioned, that these bacteria are really important because they support our body through a number of things. Number one, we talked about the metabolites. Remember, short chain fatty acid. They produce vitamins as well. They try to help our homeostasis. So that's why they are important, because they play a lot of beneficial stuff.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued by the idea of the gut and that cognitive function ability, and that brain gut connection, and that relationship that they have with each other. And they're kind of being like a chicken and the egg scenario, where like you don't know which one came first, but they both have this relationship with each other that's, obviously measurable, but also kind of quantum-esque, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, no, no doubt about it. That's really the beauty of the science now is starting to show. Because remember, before we just thought our brain tell us everything. Now we know our gut also communicate with our brain. Not only our brain affect our systems, but also our gut and the microbes living there, because of what they produce, could affect also our brain and how it functions, and neurotransmitters. So
Yes.
yes, this is very, very important realization that it's a two-way system here.
Yeah. And creating like the smoothest pathway to each other, obviously would give each other the ability to communicate clearer and more concise and probably more authentic.
Exactly, exactly right.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, when I was reading the book Blink, and they were talking about just that gut reaction to things, and how that's got a lot of authenticity, and a lot of like a knowing beyond the knowing.
Yeah, yeah. That's why they say gut feeling, and
Yeah.
now at least we are defining it in more really scientific terms, and we are finding how it could do it.
Yeah, and we're seeing that in a lot of different areas of health and wellness that go beyond just, what we knew traditionally growing up, right? Like even meditation, we're seeing the benefits of that. We're seeing the beneficial, the aspects of yoga, like you mentioned before, where yes, we knew on this tangible level it was beneficial physically, but there seems to be this, non-measurable element to these things, right? And we use them just in expressions, like you said, gut feeling.
Yeah.
But there seems to be this non-measurable aspect to things that is now starting to be backed by science, with brain waves and neuroscience and quantum physics. And they're kind of all coming together to define and, you know, give background information in detail, and, explain the human experience outside of the tangible.
But that's the beauty of science. That's why I think we need to support science, because if we understand the mechanisms, and that's what you are exactly what you're talking about, of how this interaction happens, then we can find ways to try to improve our life and reduce our health issues we find. It's when I first came to the US, now it's about 30 years, I was amazed about how much funding is given to scientists to study. And now I know, if you think about it, once you give and support research, they can come out with solutions. Sometimes not every research is you expect to be successful, but on balance, doing research and understanding the science behind it is very powerful, uh, really thing that happens in the US that makes us ahead of the curve as far as advancement and the health. I mean, you can imagine when first HIV happened, people used to die because of infections. They die very fast. Now guess what? Now they die because of old age. People with HIV die because of old age. Why? Because scientists tried to understand what's going on, and then they found ways to try to control the virus. It's exactly now what happens with COVID. I mean,
Yes.
can you imagine how fast they came out with the vaccine? It is amazing, uh, and that's why we need to support science. We need to understand this, and we need to educate our kids. So,
Mm.
because education is the key to being ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I agree. I think education is probably one of the most important steps, not just for kids but for adults as well. And no matter what your belief on vaccinations or non-vaccine, whatever it is, and unfortunately and fortunately, we live at a time where everything gets questioned, and there's a pro and a con to that. There's a beauty to be able to say like, I'm going to question this. And you're always going to find the people that are going to support you. And then there's always going to be the people that go against you. And you have to use your own discernment and your own curiosity to guide you and stick with what you feel is right for yourself and not try to push that on to anybody else. But, the science is there, and there is something that is, it's backed and it's proven and it's manipulated as well. Right. So there's a good and bad to anything in life.
I really agree with you. And look, as a scientist, I can tell you in my life, I write a paper describing my research. I submit it for peer review, okay? And they come back and they criticize it. So to me, I tell sometimes you say, what are they talking about? What you need to do? You look at it, leave it, come tomorrow, look at it again, and then try to answer that, because it is good that our peers are able to tell us, there is some issue here. You need to address this. You need to make it better. You need to prove it more. So to me, it is part of doing science is that there are positive criticism. They try to criticize you to improve it. I always say, look, don't try to kill this thing. See how you can make it better. And that's the key. The key to us is how we can make it better. And some research works, some does not work. And then you have to be of high integrity to say, okay, this didn't work.
How many of people in your field, not specifically with gut biome, but people in the scientific world, how many of them are just critiquing that just for the sake of critiquing it? And how many of the people are getting that information back and are not willing to make the adjustments and not willing to say, okay, and they don't act with an integrity and say, I'm wrong, but they need to be right. And they'll push that narrative as far as they can go with it because of ego or because of their title or whatever it may be. And that's where it becomes where people on the outside looking in get very, disenfranchised by doctors or disenfranchised by the information.
Look, it's a human nature, and it depends on people. Different people behave differently. The nice thing, I serve on review panels by the National Institute of Health. Let me just describe you these review panels, because it's very important. It comes about 40 people of the top scientists in the country, okay? Each application to be funded is reviewed by 3 people, 3 reviewers independently. And then when you go to that study section they give you time, okay, we have this application, you guys talk about it. And then we discuss it and we argue against each other, But then after the 3 finish, then everybody in the panel, the 40 people, have the chance of also chiming in. Oh, you said this, what do you think? So the nice thing, we have good review system that can, to some extent, protect against these people who say no. And you have it in every way of life. You have people who just want to kill everything, okay? The nice thing, when you have a good panel, they will put them in place. No, you cannot, this is not right. You see what I mean? So you have to have a way to try, to go through and say, look, is this right? Is this wrong? Is it an ecosystem? But you will always have this thing. As long as the total balance is objective, then it is fine, And sometimes
Sure.
you put a grant, the first time they don't give it to you, you go, you fix it, put it in again, okay? And then they may give it to you. If they may come and say, no, we still need to fix again. So you take it, you fix it. Is this friend of mine, Arturo Casadeval, he said, Mahmoud, as I mentioned to you, if they criticize me, I don't respond. I leave it 2 days till I calm down, and I come down and I address it and then send it in again. This is a system. As long as you understand the system, as long as you play fair, it will be fine. You always have some which will fall through, but this is life.
that was one of the most renowned things about Abraham Lincoln, is that he was very patient with the way he approached different people. And that was one thing that they talked about, was like they found letters to generals that he didn't send, but was like basically blasting them for not doing X, Y, and Z. But he took the day, right? That's the old expression. If you're angry, write the letter, but then don't send it. Give it a day or two, because you're so invested into that emotion at that time that you're just reacting, and you're not giving your body or your mind or your soul a moment to respond.
Yes.
And give it that time. And then if you still want to send it, then by all means do so, but give yourself the time to kind of come down and level out a little bit.
Yeah, this is absolutely right. Because we all are. Oh, I created this is beautiful. Well, listen, my friend, maybe it needs fixing.
Because you put time and effort and energy into something, you
Yeah,
want it to be great, right? And
yeah,
that's a beautiful thing.
yeah.
But again, when the ego gets attached to it, and then there's
Uh,
the money behind it and the financing behind it, and there's so many things behind it on the back end. That's where people get, again, disenfranchised by doctors and systems.
let me tell you one last story about this. When I first was asked to be part, many years ago, to be part of this review panel, this guy who is a scientific review administrator from the National Institute of Health, he starts the meeting by saying, look, please remember, each application this is submitted by somebody who spent more than a baby. It takes more than 9 months to write a grant and submit. So please remember that. Also remember, this somebody's mortgage, somebody's car payment. So try to be objective. Don't try to kill it just because, and I thought, wow, this guy is really good, because he is trying to tell you, look, criticize, but remember, don't just kill it for the sake of killing it and for ego, you know?
Mm,
Sometimes, yeah, I look at the ground and say, no, this should not be,
yeah.
I tell them why, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we went too much into science, and it's
No, not at all. But you know what? It's not only about, to me, I'm super interested in the gut aspect of things, but I think that there's also a role in that, just that, like I said, that mind body connection, right? And the gut and the mind being a part of that. But then there's also all these other external factors, not only in health and wellness, but in the approach of science, the approach of doctors, the approach of vaccinations and medicine, and wherever you fall on the fence on that is fine. But you also have to hear the other side of it, right? And realize that, like, that's a beautiful way to open that up, is like, yes, don't just kill this for the sake of killing it. Let's give everybody the opportunity to air their grievances. And if there's validity in that, then fine, we'll approach it based off of that validity. But if there isn't, like, remember that someone's paying their bills based off of this. Someone's doing this hard work is not just a piece of paper in front of you. There's more to it behind the scenes. And that's where people lose that human connection.
honestly, when I heard him saying, as I told you, this many years ago, his name Bill Branch, he retired long time ago. I thought, oh my God, he really put it in a good way, so that you start looking at these grants with open mind. Don't try just to be biased. Don't try, just open mind. Think about it, be objective, because this is the purpose of the meeting. The purpose of the meeting is like what you mentioned, is not just to kill a grant, it's just to get a better grant, you
Mm.
know? So yes, I really agree with you. And I really was very happy, because this at least encapsulate how the system works, which is really good if you have people like that.
I want to go back to the gut real quick before we wrap up. But where can people go to get an idea of what their gut's telling them, and learn? Because again, a lot of medicine nowadays isn't about health and wellness, isn't about diet, isn't about gut biome, but it's about take this pill, and again, we're approaching, and we're trimming the leaves off the branch and not getting to the root of the problem. Where can people go, or what can people do on their own to find out more, to do more, to find a more smoother highway between the mind and the gut, and create that healthy system within themselves?
I mean, we established, as you know, a company called Biome Health, BIOHM Health. And there is a lot of information there which can help people. Also, we have nutritionists who, if you have questions, they can also help you. We to help people know what's the status of their gut. We launched a microbiome gut test, where people can send their stool samples, and we look at the profile and compare it to healthy people. And based on this, you ask them also questions about their lifestyle, exercise, stress, and all of this. You put it all together, and our nutritionist help them. But there is also microbiome report. Also, it's a podcast which provide a lot of information on the gut health, or different diets, different type of food to eat, as well as we have a probiotic which we designed based on our study with the Crohn's disease, which we started our discussion with, which has both good bacteria and good fungus. Because, as you know, I'm a great believer in we have to look at both bacteria and fungus, because if you don't, you are really addressing half of the problem. And of course, these days, you can go into the Google Scholar, you can search what you want, give you information.
Just ask Siri, how do I get a healthy gut biome, Siri?
I know. So, yeah, I think Biome Health, we really are trying to put a lot of effort to try to educate people and help people.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And where can people connect with you more?
Through that, or I am also a professor at Case Western Reserve University and University Hospitals of Cleveland. So I am part of Case, and I can be reached there. My email, mahmoud.ghannoum@case.edu.
Beautiful. Dr. Ghannoum, thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure. We didn't even get into fungus, which is going to be a whole other door to open. So we'll have to have you back on, talk about fungus, and that's a whole different can of worms, which is remarkable, remarkable stuff with fungus. So thank you again so much. I really appreciate your time. This was fantastic.
Thank you for having me, Vinny. Bye-bye.
Pleasure.